They want first go in the weather in that kind of. Balls to score off if you sort of break it all down, averages and strike rates. Yep. Now that 6 extra balls is a big deal. Yeah. I know. It doesn't sound like a lot. It's only a couple of percent, but it does give you a lot in terms of one of these games. It's an 8 to 10 run over, maybe somewhere in the middle towards the end of a game of cricket. Is that enough? It is. They've made the right decision, though, haven't they?
Definitely.
Given the results, given what's happened.
said to me that he didn't think Ronke was a full-time international player, and this is someone who had the ability to pick him and work with him a fair bit. And that's been a problem with Ronke, is that when he's on a flat pitch, there's absolutely no problems, but when there's some movement, lateral of any kind, he does struggle a little bit. Melinda Farrell, who's coming on soon, has passed a message saying that Lathan's been wearing a moon boot, but to be fair, Kane Williamson did say everyone was fully fit and available for selection yesterday. He might have been lying to me. I don't know. I mean, not to me personally, but I was like in the press corps.
Everyone's fully fit, and I still...
Are you fully fit? You went fully fit for any game you played.
I've been fully fit for a long time. I still find the New Zealand selection, a couple of the other selections, interesting. I find Milne in for Mitchell McClenaghan. I find that... I don't mind it, but I thought McClenaghan would have played. I just think McClenaghan up the top, and then in the middle is in the middle of a one-day international, not a T20, because we know, because we
there and how much we miss it and things like that. So, I'd rather sit around with mates and ex-players and mates and talk about it.
Who was the guy that you wanted the most? If you could just choose one wicket, which was the player that you wanted to get in the England team? That is.
The England team. It was always the best player. I always wanted to get the best player out. I never was one of those guys to pick a bunny or who I was going to target like Glenn McGrath did, because I wasn't quite to his standards. So I used to like getting Alistair Cook out because he was so hard to bowl to. Frustrating at times. They just dead bat you when you bowl 145 and he just dead bat you, block your back, and it's like, very frustrating at times for a fast bowler, that. But it was nice to, like I said, get Peterson out as well. When he was playing his best cricket. Any of the top four or five guys. It's nice to be playing with Ian Bell, not against him now. It's great to have him in our side here at the Perth Scorchers, but he was another guy that I played a lot of cricket against, since the 19s, and it was probably Alistair Cook was probably one guy that I probably didn't get out too many times, but when I did, I really enjoyed it.
Is KP on the Christmas card list yet? You two must have crossed paths in the Big Bash.
We've crossed paths a couple of times, and we actually saw him in the Qantas Lounge here in Australia Airport, and we had a bit of a chat and that. So, look, all those things have, back in 2009, is that's done and dusted. The off-field incident. Well, it was on-field, but before the start of play. But all those things, they go away, and we had some really good battles out in the middle, which I really enjoyed. And look, I'm not someone to sit here and hold a grudge, and I'll move on. And but I don't know if I'll send a Christmas card. I don't send Christmas cards.
I don't think anyone does anymore, in fairness.
No.
Mitch, you've been so generous with your time. Talking about your book, Resilient, is an absolutely wonderful read. But before you go, I just need to ask you, what next for Mitchell Johnson? You're still a young man. You've still got plenty of years in the game, obviously as a bowler for the foreseeable. But where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years?
I've got a couple of little businesses that I'm involved in. So one of them's
you going back to plumbing?
Sorry,
going back to driving the plumbing van around. No.
Those days are done. But I've got involvement with a beer company, Pirate Life. I actually think they've just done some stuff in London. So looking to have some more involvement there. And I've got a fast bowling app coming out. So that's been in the process for about a year. So looking forward to that. But there's opportunities.
It's an absolutely wonderful read.
Opportunities there. I'll look at getting my level 3 coaching.
What next for Mitchell Johnson? You're still a young man. You've still got
mind mentoring some young kids as well.
Fantastic stuff. I thought you never know if you have enough time, and maybe you can get on the seniors tennis circuit. A lot of the players these days seem to want to play golf, but maybe there's another avenue for you. Mitch, it's been absolutely
the tennis. So we saw that Djokovic lost yesterday. So
well. He's certainly got something in the Queen's honours list. But, mate, it's been absolutely a pleasure chatting to you. Thanks so much for your time. The book's called Resilient, and maybe doesn't attract as much attention as the Big Bash, but I know there's a couple of teams, more than a couple of teams, that would love to have you. If you're in London, come and visit us. But it's been brilliant half an hour. Thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, thanks for your time as well. Cheers.
Brilliant stuff, Mitch. I really appreciate that, matey. It was.
Thank you. Are you having a baby?
Yeah, Do you know what? My wife actually has just started going into. She's got very early contractions. I was wondering.
Right. Well,
I better get. She's in bed now. But I was last night. I was wondering if I was going to have to send an email saying.
Well, a little bit more information than you needed about my personal situation there, and I'm happy to say that. My wife did have contractions and had a very healthy baby. So welcome to Talk Sport 2 and Cricket Radio. And just a little indication of what a nice guy Mitchell Johnson is. At the end of a half-an-hour interview, he had time to ask me about how it was going. Ian O'Brien and Melinda Farrell. I'm speechless.
I love that. I love live radio.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's not like we're going out all around the world or anything. Well, we are.
Well, the good thing is that you're loving being
forward a bit too much as a front player. You really want the ball.
I tell you what, trying to fit in a Champions Trophy around family life. I don't know, Ian, how have you found it?
Oh, I was in Skegness yesterday.
Well, that's bad with or without kids.
Angus Gunn, of course.
Ice creams on the parade. We had a lovely time riding on some go-karts, and riding on some fun park rides. Just having a good time.
Playing at all in any
level rainy Birmingham. It was sunny up there, sunny Skegness.
It is raining still here, unfortunately, at Edgbaston, where New Zealand got off to a pretty decent start. They certainly would have taken 67 for 1 inside the first 10 overs, but we haven't had any play since then. And you just feel that stop-start nature to a game only really helps the bowlers, doesn't it?
I think Australia will certainly benefit
I like that.
from this a lot more than New Zealand. just the one. There was that little the mix-up, that run-up mix-out, only a couple of runs ago. It seemed a long time ago now, but they were 65 when that run-up mix-up. Ronke and Williamson ended up punching gloves in the middle of the pitch, and the throw could have gone either end. The throw missed. Keeper wasn't there. Keeper missed. It was comedy.
It was comedy. I was actually outside in the corridor.
A little bit here,
Edgbaston, so you've got, as you can imagine,
Castro.
Banks of different broadcasters.
Well, it was
as I walked
probably the best chance of the match.
A bit of both. I think he carried it for too long. But Angus Gunn is out really quickly into his face.
Is it 6? Is it wicket? I walked in and I didn't have the answer in front of me because everyone had their head in their hands. They were looking around. Nobody seemed to know what was going on.
Should be getting a corner there. They made the case.
But actually, the sign was with the Aussies, wasn't it? Because they weren't celebrating.
Well onside, his time was run well. Love the little reverse.
No, but the funny thing about that, I thought, was that Williamson had several times up to that point just softly played the ball towards head-on and taken off the single. He was always looking for it because he does that, doesn't he? He's happy to let Ronke go, and Williamson seems to score quickly, almost without you noticing it at times. And he was going at a run and ball. He'd played softly there. He'd nicked a few singles there earlier and had looked to go. So it was a sort of move, I guess, that only Ronke didn't seem to know about at the time.
With a lot of watching cricket, New Zealand cricket behind me, Kane Williamson being involved in a run-out or a mix-up is not that uncommon. Normally happens when him and Ross Taylor are together. It's normally him and Ross Taylor in one of the...
That's a very good point, actually. Kane Williamson is always... Well, not always, but very often. It's either Ross Taylor, Kane Williamson, Guptill's been involved in a couple as well. There was one against South Africa, wasn't there?
I would say Kane Williamson is always involved in a mix-up.
Why is that?
Well, maybe it's because he's so nice. When he says yes, people are like, does he really mean yes? Because he's such a nice, softly spoken guy. Maybe there's not enough oomph and steel in the yes, no, whatever.
Think that must be. Is that not something? I think it could well be a point. Well, actually, I tell you what, we saw something happen before play today, didn't we? They were warming up. There was a game of football. Kane Williamson was stretching his hamstrings. He had his back to the football. Someone booted the ball, slapped him in the back. No reaction.
Not bothered.
I mean, it was just as though, well, that was always going to happen. Why get annoyed about the fact I've just been hit in the back?
And that's part of his makeup. And going back to the run-outs, that doesn't stress him out. And that point you make about the ball hitting him, and he was just like pretty nonchalant about it. Very, very nonchalant. I wish I could have this. But when there is that kind of confusion, and either of them could have been run out, Ronke or Williamson could have been run out, and you won't see any noticeable change in Kane Williamson. You won't see him start to fret. You won't see him start to twitch. You won't see some of those the visual ticks in Kane Williamson. He is just in one place at the whole time. His scoring rate will move up and down the gears, but you will very rarely, if ever, see any outward signs of anxiety or him being even comfortable. He's just in one mood the whole time. Even when you see him around a hotel, and I've done a couple of tours with him, going back a little bit, it's just Kane Williamson. He's just the same all day long, which is a great thing for a captain.
I don't think he sweats. I don't think his sweat glands produce moisture. Do you know what I mean? He just never seems to sweat.
Melinda Farrell, who I should introduce probably to the listeners, a commentator for today's game. It's good that we can have a chat, actually. Australia and New Zealand coming into this series in very different places as teams. Let's talk a little bit about Australia, because, of course, there is there's this cloud that surrounds them, literally today, but figuratively, in terms of this problem that they've got with their players' union and cricket. They, I believe, are out of contract at the end of June.
Correct, yes.
And as it stands, they are no closer to signing a new contract today than they were when this story started to appear a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. Can you let us in a little bit about where the problem lies?
Well, it's actually more than a few weeks ago. This has been bubbling along for months and months. I mean, this was all a big story during the Test series before the end of the year in Australia, when it all started to bubble over in the public and the shots were being fired by one and then responses from the other. They will be out of contract on the 30th of June. Cricket Australia has made it clear that they will be unemployed. It's quite extraordinary. James Sutherland wrote to the players and said, you're out of a job as of June 30th. The players have fired back. They've started up a contingency fund to look after the female players and the domestic players who have played less. They've started up a company that will take over the intellectual property of the players. So if people want to use players' images or everything else, they will have to go to the Australian Cricketers Association. The real problem comes to the fact that both parties, Cricket Australia and the Australian Cricketers Association, have both come up with their own memorandums of understanding, their own starting point for a contract. And neither of them are willing to really come to the table. So Cricket Australia have said, here's our starting point. This is where we start from. The ACA have said, well, no, this is what's been happening for years and years. And there's no middle ground. So for the last 20 years, Australian players have been partners in the game. They've shared the revenue. And rather than being employees.
This seems to be the main sticking point. Am I right?
Yes. So they've shared in the revenue. Cricket Australia are saying, well, we don't want to do that anymore because we want to free up money for other things. And the Australian players want to stay with that. So but players like Steve Smith, Dave Warner, the big players, they'd actually make more money under Cricket Australia's proposal. But the sticking point is the level of the players underneath them. All those state players, they would be frozen out of that.
But am I right in saying, though, that the state players who will also see their wages increase to quite an impressive level? So it's not as though they're being cut adrift here.
No, it's not. It would increase to a certain level but frozen for 5 years. So it's not just about the level of pay, it's the fact that Australian cricketers have been partners in the game, and it's a massive philosophical shift to go, well, they're going from partners to being employees. And I know there's a fear that once that happens, then anything can happen to those players. I mean, they argue, one of Cricket Australia's arguments has been that, for example, the Sheffield Shield does not bring in any money to the game, but Sheffield Shield players are highly paid. If there's no Sheffield Shield, there's no Australian Test team. There's the argument with the Big Bash as well, that it's made a loss. It's been an investment for so many years in the starting up of the Big Bash, and they're hoping it's going to actually start to now make a big profit. Now that it's a big deal, now that they can attract big bucks for the broadcast rights, the players are saying, well, the domestic players have been a massive part of that success. They've built it up. And at a time when it's going to make profit, then that's when they're taken out of the revenue sharing arrangement.
New Zealand, from the outside, in the last few years, seems to have a pretty healthy relationship. I see players dropping in and out of the New Zealand team to go and play in the IPL. Although in some of the Test series in this country, they may have arrived a little bit too early for in terms of the playing test matches for New Zealand against England. Is it the beacon of success that maybe Australia should look towards, or has there been problems behind the scenes getting to this point?
I think the relationship at the moment between the Players Association in New Zealand and New Zealand cricket is good at the moment. I think a lot of it isn't played out in front of the media like we're seeing this get played out in front of the media, and things get played out in front of the media so you can get the public on board and try and shame one party or the other into relinquishing their MOU, their memorandum of understanding. But I think New Zealand cricket's all right. We saw a load of the guys, a load of this team turn up late over here. They had the tri-series in Ireland, and there was a 6 or 7 extra players brought over to cover while the IPL players were here. I remember touring here in 2008, and we played a warm-up game in Canterbury against Kent, and we fielded 3 or 4 guys that weren't on the tour, if you like, because there were guys turning up for a test tour straight out of the IPL. So there seemed to be a bit more of a flexibility in terms of what you're allowed to do outside of New Zealand cricket. I think also because New Zealand cricket understands that they're not the highest paid company board. They can't pay the players what Australian cricket can pay their players. But what New Zealand cricket does do is that they guarantee New Zealand cricketers a percentage of their revenue, which is what the contentious issue is in Australia. It's the revenue sharing. And in New Zealand, I think it's somewhere around 24 or 25% goes into the cricket players pool. The rest of the money that New Zealand cricket brings in, sponsorship, TV rights, other bits and pieces, that then goes to running cricket across the country, running the board and running funding back into grassroots, etc. So that's what the ACA want. They want that, which is how it is at the moment.
22.5%.
22.5%. I've got that written down. I had a question mark because I'm sure it was 22.5%.
In a game of stats, we need more stats. 22.5%.
And I think they're happy for that that number to go forward, but they see that, I think Australia board sees that their revenue is going to go up, and that's going to make the players earn more. And I don't think they're comfortable with how much the players earn if that sort of extrapolates out. They want the players to not be quite controlled by that percentage. They want a bit more of that pie, but it's the way it works around most countries. There is that around 22.5 through to 26. I think the highest country gets 26% of the board's income. And yeah, New Zealand, we've had our going back when I was playing early in my career. We had a strike. We had some issues around these things.
So what kind of what year was it? Around what time was this?
Must be the start of 2001 season. 2001, 2002. Yeah, so it started 2001, 2002 season in New Zealand. I figured our seasons run across the Christmas as opposed to across your...
Yeah, I never know when they become 2001 to just 2. Is it March? April? Anyway, that's beside. That's by the by.
At March it goes. That's the end of the 2000. Yeah. Anyway.
So you're playing for New Zealand.
So no, I was domestic player.
Domestic player.
Domestic player. In my first year of playing, I played 9 of the 10 first-class games, and I made £3,000 for the year, which sounds pretty bad. And that was and you get paid to play. There was no contracts, there was no retainers at that stage at a domestic level, and basically the big boys of international cricket, the Stephen Flemings, the Nathan Asnells, the Craig McMillans, along with what then became the Players Association. We striked, and it caused a lot of problems. If you have a look back at the media, it was a big divide and conquer, which is what both sides are basically doing.
So
in the media.
You didn't play for Wellington.
It got sorted out, which it always was going to, and this one will in Australia.
So this is
got sorted out before that happened, but they did. The major associations, so the counties or the states, did contract people in replacement of us.
So there were players ready to play?
There were some did break ranks, if you like, and there was some from outside of the group that signed for the major association.
So what happened to them?
Well, some of them they kept their money. They kept that sign-on money. And then most of them were never seen again.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been very, very popular.
Well, there was one that we played, one that did play quite a bit for Wellington in the coming years, but and it didn't affect his standing in the team. It was a case by case, I guess, and we were all typically pretty decent people. We didn't hold it against him, but he did get to keep that grand, which we thought it could have just been split out between us. It would have been nice. But yeah, New Zealand's been there. And yeah, we fought for a fairer contract system and contracts for domestic cricketers. So you ended up with a contract. You ended up with a retainer, if you like, and a commission if you played, which was a much better system.
I suppose it's been the age-old battle in all sports, though, hasn't it? There's a fascinating book by an author called Gary Imlach, who wrote a book called My Father and Other Working Class Heroes. And his father was a professional footballer back in the 50s. When all the power belonged to the club. And these players, they couldn't leave when they wanted to, and they left when they didn't want to. If they didn't play, if they fell foul of the board, they earned very little money. All the power, all the money went to the club owners. Now, you fast forward 60, 70 years, and you'd have to say that maybe it's gone too far the other way. But in all sports, a little shrug from Ian O'Brien there, a former professional player himself. But I suppose the happy medium is what we're all searching for. And what we don't want to see is what happened in baseball for a few seasons when it's a lockout.
Yeah, definitely not. Certainly the rise of player power has been one of the biggest things in modern sport, and we have seen that in cricket. The other thing now is that cricket has more opportunities there for players to actually make a living. There are lots of T20 tournaments around. It's not the be-all and end-all, although most players want to play for their country and they want to play Test cricket for their country. But there are other ways now, and that's where it's a little bit of a worry. You don't want to see that devalued, I suppose, at all, and players looking to play more T20 because they don't trust the board. In Australia, there's a lot of competition for elite athletes. There's a lot of competition from different football codes, especially with cricket, I would say, with the AFL for young talent. And there are a lot more positions because there are more teams. So they are in a battle to retain the best talent too, which is why they have gone with this system to try and make the players very well paid so that they can keep the talent in there. But it does go both ways. You wouldn't want to see what's happened in the West Indies either, where it's just completely fallen apart between the Players Association and the board. And
the Players Association.
Exactly, yes.
Which is the India tour would say.
Yeah, but I think it's very united in Australia, certainly from what I've seen. The players from the top down have been very, very supportive. The interesting thing will be the litmus test, I think, will be there's an Australia A tour to South Africa in July and August. That's the first tour after this MOU finishes. So the Women's World Cup goes beyond the current deal, so it goes beyond July 30th. So they're officially out of contract, but they've agreed to pay them in advance while they're still under contract. So the women's team for the Women's World Cup, which is being held here, is okay for that, but then they're all out of contract, and it's that Australia A tour that will be very interesting. If they haven't sorted it out by then, that'll be the one where we'll see if the players go, well, that's it, we're not going. That's a pretty big deal. And a series against Bangladesh comes after that.
Melinda Farrell, Ian O'Brien, thank you very much for your time. The news here from Edgbaston on TalkSport and Cricket, TalkSport 2 and Cricket Radio is that, well, you said it was brightening up a bit earlier, Mel. I'd agree with you now. I think it is a little bit brighter.
Told ya. Do you know how you can tell? In the distance, you can see the city skyline from here, and whenever I can see BT Tower there in the distance, it's not too bad. Yeah. It's when you can't see BT Tower that you think, oh, God, we're in real trouble.
It's only just, I can hit that with a couple of wedges. If you can't see BT, you would probably...
You couldn't earlier in the week during the warm-up matches.
When it was dark.
Yeah.
Well, you do hail from these. Your accent is very much Australian, but when you're in England, this is where you call home. So I'm going to trust you on that one. But while we wait for the game to resume with New Zealand and Australia back in the hutch, just waiting for the rain to subside. It does appear to have stopped raining. They're just getting some moisture off the pitch, and hopefully the delay won't be too long. New Zealand, who won the toss and decided to bat 67 for 1, just under 10 overs. and we're going to get an update, hopefully, in the next, about 1:15 UK time, about when we're going to get back onto the field of play. That's not going to happen in the near vicinity, though, or the near future. So while we wait for that, let's hear a little bit of an interview that Darren Gough conducted with the legendary Adam Gilchrist that went out on Cricket Week at the start of the year. Goughy and Adam Gilchrist live in Dubai. I was lucky enough to be sitting down producing that interview. It was fantastic to listen to, and I hope you agree. Let's hear when Goughy asking Adam Gilchrist just what it's like. Unfortunately, Goughy doesn't know the answer to this. What is it like, Adam, to win the Ashes?
Oh, I mean, I think for any young kid from either country, England or Australia, that's the one you want to be a part of and experience. It's everything you'd expect. That's why you see the team celebrate so well. It's a culmination of a long journey and a lot of work. But I remember, I mean, it is amazing the time, isn't it, that you know your era compared to then the next era. And I remember 2001 facing you charging in at Edgbaston.
You only got 150 that year.
Yeah, but it was earlier on, and you just got on a bit of a roll, got a few wickets, and is it what's the bank over on the side to the right, sitting in the change room, that stand over on the...
It's a real loud stand, that. It's an amazing atmosphere.
I was at the non-strikers end, and you were...
stand.
Yeah, and they were going, chanting your name, and it was just that pack sort of mentality of the crowd. It was just really intimidating, but obviously we got the better of that one, and as Australia did through that era. But I got taken straight back there in 2005. Then when Freddie was the one charging in, and the crowd again, and it's just like that you're under siege, and that tells me what that whole 2005 we just felt under siege everywhere we went. But that reflects to me the rivalry and the history and what it means and the passion in there. And when your boys won that one, to see at the Oval the grown men crying.
I went there as a supporter, Gilly. I actually went there, paid, and went in just to witness it,
just because
I never had that chance. And I went there, and people didn't even know it. I was just sat there watching and thinking, this is unbelievable. This is ridiculous. But I remember that game. Brett Lee, just before lunch, were bowling the speed of light at KP, and he was fending it off, and I'm thinking, well, if they get him out here, I tell you what, Australia they're going to fly.
It was up for grabs.
Was that where Warney dropped the catch as well? Yeah, unbelievable. But then he came out after lunch, Brett Lee's still bowling, and he just took him on. Oh,
mate, that was an unbelievable innings.
Session,
and every boundary, we just felt it's slipping away. That was just an extraordinary, amazing cricket, the quality of cricket in that series. And the tension and the drama and that theatre feeling, that was that and probably 2001 in India, the two best cricket series that I played in, and we lost both of them.
Last few, Gilly, but your biography came out in 2008, and you made quite a few comments, didn't you, on Tendulkar and Murali. Do you stick by your comments on Murali?
Yeah, I do. I think, and I've chatted with him about it, and I don't want to. No desire to go getting into the big debate now. It's old news. Everyone's got their opinion, and everyone's slowly people have voiced their opinion. But clearly there was flaws in the system around that whole area. So not just for him, but it's and now we see an adaptation of rules and what's acceptable and what's with all the testing and so on. So I think it's not so much Murali, it's just that was such a grey area. The whole system was flawed.
Correct.
The identification, the rehabilitation, whatever it is. So it's still, even now bowlers are still getting questioned and pulled out. But I guess at least now there's decisions being made to say, look, no, you're out for a while till you get fixed up or whatever. But it was just such a grey area, wasn't it? So there was no winners in it. There's not for a moment do I begrudge anything that he or any of the other bowlers have been implicated did. Absolutely far from it. I mean, what a champion bloke. What a great competitor. And so and then as any of the other stuff, I didn't ever intend to write something controversial, but they're my recollections.
It makes it a better book.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, here we are still talking about it. So
yeah, exactly.
Find a good bookstore. But yeah, well, that's what your memoirs are. They're your memories, your recollection, isn't it? Everyone mightn't agree with it. I think that's what you've got to say at the start of any time you put a book out. That's what I remember. Digest it. If you want to tell me I'm wrong, that's fine. I'm not offended by that. And clearly Sachin might have a different take on what I'd said, and that's fine. Again, that was a horrible little scenario around 2008 between India and Australia. No winners in any of that. It was a bad one. It was just wrong for a whole lot of reasons, and a lot of us, both their side, our side, are responsible. And if we had our time again, might act a bit differently. So let's move on.
Finally, who was the best player you played with, and who was the hardest player to play against?
Shane Warne's best cricketer I've seen, best all-round cricketer, clearly best bowler, great slips fieldsman, much better batsman than what he probably allowed his results to show. Great cricket mind, just an absolute all-round cricketer. And hardest opponent, probably Murali. He used to. I could go and play him tonight, this afternoon. I still cannot pick him, so I'm playing on guesswork, mate. So that was, I mean, all the challenging bowlers through that mid-90s. You know, yourself, Akram. You know, I caught the end of the West Indies, so I didn't get them. You know, of Ambrose and Walsh, didn't get them in their prime.
No, I did.
But yeah, that's right. But you know, Wacker, like so many. Polly used to really give me a tough time. Sean Pollock, just with the angles and going across me as a lefty. So, but yeah, Murali I found very, very difficult.
Adam Gilchrist talking to Darren Gough in an interview which you can hear a little bit later on in the show. The news from Edgbaston, well, slightly more positive insofar that one of the big four covers has been taken off. Still a little bit of water on the outfield, but it stopped raining. A big cheer here in the grounds when that cover was taken off. So hopefully we will be getting some play, but we're just going to hold fire for a little bit. You're listening to TalkSport 2 and Cricket Radio, live coverage of the Champions Trophy throughout the tournament. Haven't had any play for the last hour or so, with New Zealand 67 for 1 inside the 10th over, but we are hopeful that we are still going to get a full game here today. We shall wait. The umpires are making their way out onto the fields, and hopefully we'll have some better news for you in the next 5-10 minutes or so here on TalkSport 2 and Cricket Radio.
The ICC Champions Trophy 2017.
That is huge.
On TalkSport 2.
Wonderful.
Being an All Black is in their blood. Being a Lion is in ours. The Lions Tour. Live only on Sky Sports. To upgrade, search Sky Sports Summer.
With BMW navigation and Spotify integration as standard, the BMW 1 Series effortlessly combines information and entertainment with outstanding driving pleasure. And now the 5-door BMW 118iM Sport is available with monthly rentals from just £239. Visit your local BMW centre. The BMW 1 Series. Pure BMW. £4,329 initial rental, 36-month hire agreement, subject to status and availability for new vehicles ordered by 30th of June and registered by 30th of September. UK only guarantees may be required. Excess mileage and other conditions apply when you return the vehicle. BMW Finance.
This is the sound of a man who unexpectedly fell into cold water and instinctively is trying to swim hard. This is the sound of the cold water shock, making him gasp uncontrollably and breathe in water until he drowns. Whereas this is the sound of a man who fell into cold water and knows how to survive. You have to fight your instinct to swim and just float until the cold water shock has passed and you can control your breathing. This is a safety message from the RNLI. Float to live. Visit respectthewater.com.
Oh, look, it's a postcard from Stephen Liu. Having a wonderful time in Ibiza, very hot, wish you were here. And happy birthday, Mike. Best wishes. And if you get poorly, get well soon. All the best, SNL.
Like getting your money's worth? Enjoy the delicious 99p mayo chicken, part of the McDonald's Saver menu. From 10:30am, price of participation may vary.
Don't ignore the workplace. It's the law to have a work... Even if you work from home and only employ one person, you'll still need a work... You'll still need to offer a workplace pension. Ah, finally. I got your attention. Don't ignore the workplace pension. It's the law. Get to know your responsibilities with help from the pensions regulator. Visit workplacepensions.gov.uk.
Van Buster now on. The Titan 750 watt 115mm angle grinder, just £20. When it's gone, it's gone. Excludes VAT at 20%.
My thing, popping on the Lycra and swallowing the odd insect. I'm into my cycling, you see. We meet every Sunday morning, 7:30 on the dot. We just planned a trip to the Alps, well, the Welsh Alps, so we need a new bike rack. It's got to keep 4 bikes safe on the roof whilst we plan our Tour de Wales and the car underneath.
Sounds like Ben's thing is a roof-mounted 4-bike car carrier rack. Find your thing on eBay, the UK's #1 online destination for car parts and accessories. eBay. Find your thing.
Listen. Do you hear that? That's the sound of nothing. Sounds nice, doesn't it? At Ford, we like the sweet sound of nothing, too. That's why we now have 0% APR representative across our Ford car range on 3-year Ford options. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer today. Ford. Go further.
Retail only. Vehicles to be contracted from April the 1st to June the 30th, 2017 and registered between April the 1st and September the 30th, 2017. Finance subject to status. Guarantees may be required. Free post Ford credit. Excludes selected models. Please contact your Ford dealer for more information.
The ICC Champions Trophy 2017.
That is huge.
On TalkSport 2.
Wonderful.
And you're listening to TalkSport 2, Edgbaston, what was hoped to be the location of the Trans-Tasman.
Programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24...
Didn't really kid Berkey.
To hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Took us 2 penalties with the equaliser.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2. You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2. You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2. You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Takes a bit of beating.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2. You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2. You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Pick the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2. You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio...
Pull up on some yellow cap street shit. Pull up. Faded off the sand, you be sneaking. Tell me where you be at in the nighttime. Baby, hit me on that lifeline. Shawty, make that booty bounce, make it count. Can you flip it like I flip a half an ounce to a pound? Bring a friend too, I know you better looking, but she down. I'ma hit it at the stadium when you get on the mount. I'ma let you wear my chains too, baby, you allowed. I know I be in my game when I'm tweaking off the loud, yeah. Elevated with the vibe on a high, girl, you give me every time, yeah. me scheming. Pull up, pull up. Pull up on me. Got me scheming. Pull up, pull up. Pull up, pull up, pull up. Shooting, I be perfect. Yeah, yeah. You got me. High on my mind. High on my mind. Pull up, waste my time. You got me. High on my mind. Pull up, waste my time. Oh, you got me. Pull up on me. You got me screaming. Pull up, pull up. Pull up on me. You got me screaming. Pull up, pull up. Pull up, pull up, pull up, yeah. Pull up on some yellow cap street shit. Pull up, faded off the sand, you be sneaking. Tell me where you be at in the nighttime. Yeah. Baby, hit me on that lifeline. Shawty, make that booty bounce, make it count. Can you flip it like I flip a half an ounce to a pound? Bring a friend too, I know you better looking, but she down. I'ma hit it at the stadium when you get on the mount. I'ma let you wear my chains too, baby, you allowed. I know I be in my game when I'm tweaking off the loud, yeah. Elevated with the vibe on a high, girl, you get me every time, yeah, yeah, yeah. Damn, I love your bad Americano body. Ferragamo on me. Probably let the party know De Niro on me. I'm a shooter. Got that barrel on me. I got black on black apparel on me. Girl, I know you see me lurking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. On some
Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Hit the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only available to hear in the United Kingdom. Normal programming will resume as soon as the current event is finished, but from 2020 cricket to European football and everything in between, TalkSport 2 is the new home of sports broadcasting.
Championship radio that shoots and scores. TalkSport 2! Hit the bones out of that bad boy.
TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2, the new 24-hour sports radio station brought to you by the people who make TalkSport. Unfortunately, the event you're trying to listen to at the moment is only